Amir, theoretically 7. That's a void. How many behaviors would need to be up to volume?
Alternative looking for someone.
Hey,
That's the only room of those two that want to share.
Hey, Parker.
Hey.
For making you do things.
Fine.
The guest speakers from ASCSU are here and they were wondering if they could talk to like you or Ava or Claudia. So
Oh, yes, I'd want to talk to them anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, we have one of those. Okay. So we have
Okay, we'll be in the gallery. This spot over here. I'm gonna be up front right there. So I'll be right there. Yeah. Hello, hello.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I did. I shook downstairs yesterday. That's why I could find so much.
Claire. Hi, Claire.
Is this where you want this?
Claire, are you excited? You're all dressed up. I know your roommate, Parker.
Yeah.
He approached me in class and was like, I was approached and he was like, oh, my roommate's really excited. There you go. Graduate in December. There you go. Aspirations. Yes. Good stuff. Okay, cool. Well, I'm over there. So you won't see much of me. Ellie and Enoch are defaults. They're big, good sized leaders.
They're big silly ha-has.
They're big silly ha-ha moments. So feel free.
We're currently sitting right next to essentially Statler Waldorf. Yeah.
Feel free to just like lean over and and also like office moment, like lean over the bar here and like look at it. I'll be right there.
Why am I being bad now? I'm sorry.
Oh.
Why am I being bad now? I just feel like I'm coordinating.
Where's your partner, Grant?
RFE is doing great. She's not gonna be here. She's sick or she just burnt out or what's happening. And then I don't know where Alex is staying. So, and I'm leaving.
You email it to me?
I will do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna go do that. We're drinking.
What animals those? You know what I mean?
You know, so, but.
Anyway.
Okay.
Oh, stop. I need to go do something.
Yeah.
If the question pops up, can you answer it correctly, please? That's
I don't
next.
even know what it's about.
Enoch, best judgment, it is very obvious.
I'm just gonna send you the email string and it's gonna be in there.
That works.
Question.
That's
Is there an extra seat next to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I can actually see it today. But next week. I know, because before she discovered it, but
Ooh, that's a good one.
And it's late,
As you should.
as always.
I'd be mad if you didn't. I'm gonna be 100 with you.
Honestly, I don't think it's possible for you not to.
I love the confidence from you.
Am I wrong?
Well, I don't know. Oh, God, okay, that's scary. I didn't realize the Zoom.
Gotta turn that on again.
Working on that. Yeah, I'm good. What, you know, this is literally what I was doing before I came here. I literally keep telling people, I was like, chem is just a weird class and it's just meant for you to fail.
It really
It
is.
was a leader class. So, like people, the amount of people who change their majors from college to medical sciences now because of like chem math is
My
insane.
My roommate couldn't get past Chem 2.
Some people can't get past like calculus, and so they just give up.
2.5 years. That's how many years.
I didn't even try that hard. I
Yeah.
said one semester, I'm good.
No, because at this point I'm like, sorry, I refuse to take chemical school. I'm just gonna take it over summer.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant to do, so I didn't have to go to the test during this semester. We're standing here now, so you saw how bad. But empty. I know people are here. Just right.
No, you're good. I tripped on my board.
I'll try.
Wait,
Because I want to. I told people that I
Not a
was
valid reason.
I said that you was getting ratified, and that's what they said, yes, what you ratified in person. So they can I
No, no, it's not. but
I know.
My friend that completed it today.
But I'll probably have one on. I don't.
Yes, he did.
I just wanted to confirm.
I just wanted to confirm, because I saw it surface first and I was like,
Yeah. I'm gonna pull out.
I will.
Judicial job descriptions.
Oh, that sounds like a yawn.
Actually, you don't have to do it, so actually you can go.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think I'm
I
here?
forgot about that.
Yeah, why do you think I'm like, okay, bye?
Do you have someone taking, Sammy, do you have someone who's gonna do your announcements? Sammy, do you have someone who's gonna do caucus announcements for you?
Say that one more time.
Do you have someone who's gonna do caucus announcements for you? For accessibility caucus?
Oh, yeah. I was hoping Alex would be here, but I don't see them. Yeah, I can send you what I have in my notes for copies.
Okay.
Okay, I appreciate you.
Yep. Goals and looking up. Go back.
And formidable, sure. And my wearable.
Yes. Yes. I still have to go to it.
Oh, you still have to go? I was hoping that you were here, so you got like the ability to do it earlier.
Wait, I still have to talk to you about it, but I'm assuming because it's not like no, because the test ran up so quickly. Like I blinked and then like give it to what? Like what do you mean I have a test? I really want to try it, but the thing is, I don't know if it's about a couple. This is looking weird too. But I plan to be back at least soon. I don't think I'll spend much.
As soon as I can test it a while.
That's gonna be the best. As soon as possible. You know. I am. Whoa.
This is what I was forgetting. I am calling to order the. I need to keep changing that. The fourth session of the 53rd Senate. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if anyone is willing and able, please stand. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Yeah, I do it every time. Keep forgetting to vote the lit acknowledgement. Alrighty. Now the land acknowledgement. Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples. This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other native tribes. We recognize the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and all of the relatives within it. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. CSU is founded as a land-grant institution, and we accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion, and significantly that our founding come at a dire cost to Native nations and peoples, whose land this university is built upon. This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment. Next, we move into swearing of senators and associates. So anyone who is swearing in today, please come down to the front. We have, and I was like, I don't think we have the Chief Justice back there. Was a Deputy Chief Justice walking?
Yeah, you like that. Okay, are we ready? Okay. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Enoch Benanti,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to defend and uphold
to defend and uphold
the rules and regulations
the rules and regulations
set forth by the Constitution
set forth by the Constitution
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University,
and will rightfully perform the duties
and will rightfully perform the duties
of my office
of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you for the encouragement. So Claudia will be taking over, and if anything, Parker could also step in. Alrighty, can the clerk call the roll?
Alrighty. Senator Bakari. Wow. Starting strong, guys. Chair Kelly.
Here.
Senator Lappy. Senator Van Tassel. Senator Barrett. Associate Senator Lutz.
Here.
Senator Johnson, Phil Johnson. Senator Winston. Senator Tabib.
Present.
Senator Ati. Senator Wilson. Chair Oslan. Here. Chairman Anti.
Here.
Associate Senator Perk.
Here.
Senator Stoney. Senator Melchior.
Here.
Senator Schumer. Present. Senator Chacon. Here. Senator Leal.
Here.
Senator Snyder.
Here.
Chair Taylor.
Here.
Senator McAllister Johnson.
On Zoom.
Chair Trout.
Present.
Senator Davis. Here. Senator Frisky. Here. Senator Leedy. Here. Senator Reese. Present. Associate Senator Rivera. Present. Associate Senator Salazar. Here. Associate Senator Barron. Here. Associate Senator Camber. Present. Associate Senator Lesser.
Here.
Associate Senator Alvarez. Here. Associate Senator Halverson. Senator Pickerel.
Here.
Associate Senator Yankowski. Here. And Senator Buckner. Here. Was there anyone who wasn't called? Great. Next, we move on to gallery input.
Stand in the gallery.
Okay.
Good evening, y'all. I just wanted to touch a little bit on our U+2 update. I touched a little bit on it last week. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Madeline Camberg. I'm an associate senator for ALDS. I'm also a student of social work, and I'm involved in the representation at that level within that school as well. So City Council, we had a big win. City Council passed a resolution to increase occupancy limits. This is significant because a resolution rather than a business item forces them to be accountable. They have to go forward with it, regardless of who's on City Council after this election. So big win, but the work isn't done yet. I have drafted a cease and desist letter to stop all enforcement of U+2 immediately. So I'm going to read it to y'all, and then if there's any interest, I'll pass it around for anyone else to sign if they are so compelled. There's the formalities of the business format, blah, 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 blah. Dear City of Fort Collins leadership, I hope this letter finds you in good health and high spirits. My purpose in writing to you today is to address a matter of significant legal importance regarding the City of Fort Collins' enforcement of the occupancy policy based on marital and familial status, commonly referred to as U+2. It has come to my attention that this policy may be in violation of several pertinent statutes and constitutional provisions, including but not limited to the Colorado Revised Statutes 24-34-502, the Fair Housing Act, and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. As a student of social work and political science at Colorado State University, and with keen interest in matters of social justice and housing policy, I have undertaken a comprehensive analysis of the aforementioned policy. My findings, supported by scholarly data, reveal potential conflicts with established legal frameworks. CRS 24-34-502, this statute known as the Colorado Fair Housing Act, explicitly prohibits discrimination in housing practices based on, among other factors, familial and marital status. The U+2 policy, as enforced, may potentially infringe on the rights of individuals and families protected under this statute. The Fair Housing Act, enacted at the federal level, the Fair Housing Act, cited appropriately 42-3601, blah, 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 is designated to eliminate discrimination in housing. It too extends protections to individuals based on familial status. The enforcement of U+2 may raise concerns regarding compliance with this federal law. The 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States provides that no state shall deny any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the laws. A policy that discriminates on the basis of compliance at the discretion of other citizens is in direct violation. In light of these legal considerations and the recently passed Resolution 2023-082, I kindly request that the City of Fort Collins promptly cease and desist the enforcement of the U+2 policy. Failure to do so is unethical and may result in legal action seeking remedies as provided by the applicable law. I appreciate your attention to this matter, and I hope that we can work together to ensure equitable and just housing policies for all residents of Fort Collins. Sincerely, Madeline Estelle Cameron, and anyone else who wishes to sign this. Awesome. I'll just send this around if anyone just want to go down the line. Thank you guys so much. This has been a really long time coming. Our ballot initiative was not successful in terms of ends, but it was successful in terms of means. So we were able to use that to continue to have media report on this issue. We were able to keep the momentum going, and the work isn't done. We're almost there, but it's not done. So we do have to continue to push because as it stands, I think that maybe City Council might back off a little bit and think that the work's not done, but it's not. So thank you so much for your time. Please make sure that that gets back to me. I will scan it and make sure that the physical signed copy gets out later this evening or early in the morning. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the gallery who wishes to speak at this time? Great. Seeing none, I will move back to consent agenda because I realize I skipped it. Is there any dissent at this time to the consent agenda? All righty. Seeing none, we will move into our guest speaker. ASCSU. And I will be stepping down at the moment and letting Claudia chair.
I have not yet.
I have to get the slide. Just make a motion to go.
So our guest speakers today, they do have slides. They will be read in full because they were not sent out 48 hours in advance, but they already said that they are willing to read that in full, but we are going to pull that up and we will begin the presentation.
Point of information, the slides were sent in the follow-up email to the weekly email, is that correct?
So that was the website, not the slides that will be presented today.
Understood.
Hello, everyone. Hello. How about this one? Hello, everyone. I'm Claire. I'm a student here. I'm a senior.
And I'm Barb. I'm an alumni from many years back.
And we're part of a campaign called ASCSU. So we are ASCSU, a divestment campaign that works with 350 Colorado. 350 Colorado is a climate nonprofit dedicated to solving the climate crisis through grassroots organizing
Excuse me, can you please talk into the microphone?
through
It's okay,
through
thank you.
grassroots organizing and local/community campaigns and projects. ASCSU is made up of students, community volunteers, and 350 Northern Colorado staff. We were founded in 2022, actually 2022 of October, so it's almost our first birthday. And we will keep working diligently until CSU agrees to divest from fossil fuels and invest in a green future. So for the big number, CSU's investment in fossil fuels is over $7 million. It's actually probably closer to $15 million, but we don't really have an exact number because a lot of their investments from their endowment are not public, like they don't like have that information public. So when we talk about investments from CSU, we're talking about the CSU Foundation, which handles the endowment, which is the big chunk of money that CSU uses to invest. The return on those investments is like what they use to spend on a lot of things. So their endowment is about $300 million. And we got a rough estimate of about 3% of that being either directly or indirectly invested in fossil fuels. So that does bring the estimate to about 15 million. Again, it's not exact because they won't even tell us where exactly it's invested in. So because of this, we have 4 demands for CSU and its foundation. The first one is to disclose, which is present all current direct and indirect investments in the fossil fuel industry in a clear and accessible way. We just want them to tell us where the money they're making is coming from. I think that's pretty fair. The second one is to actually divest. We want CSU to come up with a clear and actionable plan with a time frame that will tell us when they plan to completely divest from fossil fuels, within a reasonable time. Thirdly, we want them to reinvest. Obviously, once they take that money out of fossil fuels, they have to put it somewhere else. And we would prefer if that be into, things like renewable energy and other more ethical investments. And then fourthly, we would like them to take a stand. We would like them to publicly support things like divestment because CSU touts itself as an eco-friendly university, and we would like to see them back that up in their investments. So why is this important? Fort Collins consistently ranks within the top 50 cities for poor air quality in the US. CSU, however, is one of the most sustainable higher education institutions in the world. One of the ways that it's ranked, it was given 4 consecutive platinum ratings for sustainability, ranked the second highest in the US. In so many metrics, we are doing extremely good in terms of sustainability. And it's disappointing that in terms of divestment, we are so far behind so many other universities. If CSU truly wants to be a leader in sustainability, divestment is crucial, and fossil fuels are not sustainable. CSU has the chance to be a leader and to help set a precedent for other schools trying to be more sustainable. We think that CSU should, be logically consistent with all of their other values that they have that earned them that platinum ranking and divest. So I'm going to hand it over to Barb, and she's going to tell us what we've done so far.
Okay. So there have been prior divestment campaigns that have kind of come and gone over the years. And as Claire said, our campaign really got rolling with our website and our petition last October. So we have been gathering support, informing community members about our campaign, and gathering support on our petition. We're currently at 830 signatures, and we would love to go over 1,000. And, I think if we spread the word, we could easily have several thousand signatures. We have had meetings. We've met with the foundation, with some city council people. We are working on meeting with the Board of Governors, the Chancellor, and the CSU President. ASCSU, as some of you probably know, last year passed a resolution in support of fossil fuel divestment. So that was great. And it went through the Environmental Affairs group last year. Actions, we had a march last spring in April at CSU. We started on the plaza and marched over to the administration building. And we delivered a letter to President Parsons asking her to support fossil fuel divestment. We do have another action planned for October 5th, and we may have more about that on the slide. So there was the big ASCSU passed the resolution on April 12th. So this one is a little bit small, but it kind of shows what kinds of institutions are divesting. Do I need to read all of these numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it?
Sure.
All right. So by putting this on the slide, we're kind of trying to show that like it's not crazy what we're asking. Divestment from fossil fuels is very common, especially in the past like 5-10 years. So like on this pie chart, as you can see, educational institutions at 15.6% are the second like largest portion of institutions that have been divesting. State-based organizations are the largest at 35.8%. Philanthropic foundations at 11.9%. Government at 11%, pension funds at 11.7%, healthcare institutions at 1.1%, NGOs at 3.9%, for-profit corporations at 8.4%, cultural institutions at 0.3%, and other at 0.3%. But what's important is that there are a lot of institutions, you know, all across sectors who are, you know, divesting. So this is not without precedent and not something that is impossible. And as you can see here, there are a lot of schools who already have divested, state schools and Ivy League schools alike. So it's not difficult for a big school to do this. It's not difficult for CSU.
And I just want to throw in that just this week, NYU, New York University, made a commitment to divest, and they have a huge endowment, much bigger than CSU, but they're on.
So we have some next steps that we're looking forward to. The first one that's coming up is on October 5th. We have an action outside of the LSE for the Board of Governors meeting. We're wanting people to come to make public comment in support of ASCSU, and also just people to stand outside, you know, hold a sign, just come and support in any way. So really we're just trying to drum up support and show the foundation and the administration that there is student support for this initiative. Next, we're trying to get meetings with higher ups at CSU. It's been very, very difficult to get a meeting with President Parsons, but we're trying our best. We had a meeting with the foundation who handles the endowment earlier over last May, and it didn't really go anywhere, but we're trying again. Higher ups are a little bit difficult to convince on this issue, but we're trying our best. And this last one, I think, is what would be the most beneficial to collaborate with you guys on, which is to build a student base. We're trying to get more signatures on our petition, as well as just more students to join ASCSU to create a powerful and undeniable movement. Pretty much everyone I've talked to on campus has been in support of ASCSU, but it's just really difficult to get the word out for something on such a big campus. So we're really looking for like ways to collaborate in order to get the word out for this. So what we need from you, we deeply appreciate your past support. It was awesome getting that resolution passed last year. We really appreciated that, and feel that your support moving forward would be absolutely crucial to the success of our campaign. We would love to work with ASCSU to build our presence on campus and to start to talk with more influential people and groups at CSU. Thank you. To learn more, join the campaign or sign our petition, visit divestcsU.org. CSU needs to divest from fossil fuels, divest CSU.
Yes. Yes, I've got a few little quarter sheet flyers that I will pass around. They have a QR code that will take you directly to the website and the petition. Our website has actually got some good stuff about why it's important to divest, why it's important for the institutions that do divest to stand up and say that they're doing so, because it is currently, given the climate situation, all the climate-related disasters this past summer, it's becoming more and more obvious that it is really immoral, if not criminal, to continue to invest in fossil fuels. So I'll pass around the flyers. Does anybody have any questions? So, yeah.
So I am, I like what you guys are talking about, what you're doing, and I don't want to, by asking this question, come off like I'm not supportive. But when we rely on taxpayer dollars from both residential and commercial sources via the Tabor Act, a lot of those commercial sources in Northern Colorado are oil and gas. If in local movements to divest from those sources of income, do we then hurt our community and our university inadvertently by pulling funds from these sources? And I'm not saying that I think that they're being phased out regardless. But I think that there's some other implications to consider, that this could potentially harm both the community and the university funding from a taxpayer standpoint when we hurt our oil and gas. And I'm not trying, like I said, to defend this industry, but it may have a ripple effect on a very localized county level if we don't consider that. Is there anything you can speak to that?
No, I definitely agree that we have to, consider the impact that it will have on our community, because the CSU really does have an obligation to provide for the community. However, I would say that all of the investments are national investments. They're investing in like investment funds, right? In like Vanguard and BlackRock, right? These are like, they're investing into things like ExxonMobil, Shell, the national corporations. They're not investing into local like businesses. So yes, obviously when like a huge corporation suffers, each part of that corporation is going to suffer, but we don't think that as much as $7 to $15 million is, we don't think that's enough to take down an entire corporation or anything like that. I would also say, like on your point on them probably being phased out anyways, I definitely agree with that. Fossil fuels are getting riskier and riskier as investments because of the switch to renewables and the climate crisis. So even just from like a financial standpoint, it's becoming more and more unwise to invest in fossil fuels. So,
can I ask for some clarification?
No, of course.
Because you said that they don't disclose that information. So how do we know that they are not invested in companies that directly buy their oil and gas from Colorado, or specifically Northern Colorado?
Well, so we know some of it obviously, and we know that they're invested in like Vanguard and BlackRock, right? These big like investment companies. So like the way investment organizations work, right? A bunch of different places will give money to like an investment banker, and an investment banker will make investments, and then you'll get the return, right? So when we're doing that, we can see like in these big investment companies, kind of the general places they're investing in, right? Like they're kind of investing in the big companies typically. Yeah.
And I have a little bit to add to that. That actually, we're hoping that not only CSU, but lots of folks will divest. And there are definitely movements, maybe you've heard of Stop the Money Pipeline, who are trying to get big banks like Chase and US Bank and so on to stop investing in future fossil fuel projects. The fossil fuel industry has kind of, I would say, dug their own grave by not planning a transition away from ongoing new development and, continuing to pump more oil and gas out of the ground. So yes, in fact, the fossil fuel industry will have to be hurt in this transition. But I kind of weigh that. Certainly, everybody's going to have to make some adjustments. There's going to be some financial hurt in some places. Some folks talk about any new fossil fuel infrastructure that is developed now, which in theory is supposed to be functioning for the next 30, 40 years, is probably going to end up being a stranded investment. I mean, a stranded asset. And so you weigh that, which is, you know, it's going to hurt some people. It's definitely going to be, you know, less money generated for the fossil fuel industry. Some of that can go into renewables and building out wind, solar, et cetera. Also, if you look and see, if we do continue to invest in fossil fuels, to develop more fossil fuels, where is that going to take us in terms of, you know, climate-related disaster, extreme weather, loss of agricultural production, you know, migration due to climate impacts. You know, some of those effects are going to have a much worse impact and even a much worse financial impact than that of divesting from fossil fuels. Anything else?
When it comes to trying to get disclosure of investments, has there been like an effort to use either the Colorado Open Records Act or the Freedom of Information Act?
I don't believe so.
No.
Yeah, but I don't believe it would be under the Freedom of Information Act. Because the foundation is a separate, I believe this is why the foundation is a separate entity. It's a separate entity from CSU. So it's not like the state organization. So there are different rules that apply to it. So they can kind of get away with like hiding their investment information. It might be worth a try, but I don't think that it would.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I just have one last question. Has there been any talk about this reinvestment effort being at all localized, or is it strictly dedicated to only renewable energy and to companies that are in fact larger and more publicly traded at a national level than just what our local community supports? Because I'm just thinking about taxpayer dollars that fund state institutions that are the reason why universities like this exist. And like I said, again, I'm on board with the concept here, but is there talk about how that reinvestment can be localized so that what's taken out of our local economy can be brought back in a better way?
I absolutely agree with you that the most productive way to reinvest would be like in local businesses. However, that's kind of an uphill battle with the foundation because the foundation is at its core concerned with making money, and they're dealing with a very large amount of money. So they're trying to, invest in very like safe ways. So they're trying to diversify and invest in like funds and things like that, which is just really, it's difficult at a local level to do that kind of thing. So I definitely agree with you. It's just more of like a bureaucratic thing to try to convince the foundation that that's the best way to make money, you know.
Just another comment too about fiduciary duty, the duty that anyone who's investing money for someone has to invest in the best interest of their client. And really, all of us here at CSU are the clients for the foundation. And fiduciary duty can be looked at in a broader way than exactly how many dollars and cents are going to come in, because the best interest of your client sometimes goes beyond dollars and cents and can go to how is this going to impact our clients in terms of their opportunities in the future.
Hey y'all, so I did some digging, and it does look like CSU in some capacity does have to follow core requests. They do have something on their policy library. I'll just read in full what it says. I haven't fully dove into it yet. But the policy statement is, quote, core provides that inspection of certain records must be denied in appropriate circumstances, inspection of some records such as personal files, et cetera, et cetera. Requests for disclosures of records received by CSU must be handled expeditiously by a person knowledgeable about the records and about proper procedures under CORA. Different type of records are maintained in different areas at CSU, and for each type, there is a designated records custodian. Since disclosure requests may be quite informal and may require both sensitive handling and immediate response, it is imperative that all such requests be forwarded to the responsible records custodian and the Office of General Counsel as soon as received. That's specifically more within like CSU's Office of General Counsel rather than like the CSU Foundation, but I feel that they would be pretty similar. So if legal action is something to do, I would recommend. Or could be, it sounds like it could be a way you could get that information.
Yeah, I do believe that like they very carefully separated themselves from the university so we can't get that information. When we've had a meeting with the foundation, and the most specific information they gave us was that this 3% either directly or indirectly invested in fossil fuels. So that's where we get the around 15 million, but that's really as specific as they're willing to get with us. Yeah, we could threaten legal action. I don't know. I think they've been very careful to make it so they don't have to tell us.
Plus lawyers are expensive.
Last thing, hire an attorney, because fiduciary responsibility, financially, you could quantify how that affects future investment, especially as these companies are losing their traction. So hire an attorney if you have the support for that.
I just want to say hi. I'm Megan. I use they them pronouns, and I'm one of the senators for Warner. And we just wanted to like let you know, like we like totally hear you. We love what you're doing, like, and we would love to like get in contact. So when that QR comes around, just know that we'll be reaching out to you. Thank you for coming in today. It was super awesome.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're here. We hear you. Good job.
thank you. Thank you. Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you. So next we will move into executive reports. Is there anyone from executive who would like to report today?
Okay. Hello, Senate. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay. My name is Hayden Deason, and I am the Director of Environmental Affairs this year. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and it's lovely to see all of you tonight. What I want to talk to you today about is some important, I suppose, funding opportunities, as well as some updates. So as the Director of Environmental Affairs this year, I'm co-chairing the board that's overseeing the implementation of compost here in the LSC. Now, if you don't know about it, this is a huge deal because Zero Waste Team, the Student Sustainability Center, ASCSU, like for 6 years before this, have been bothering the LSC to put compost in. The rest of the university has compost, but the LSC doesn't. But they finally got a fund approved last year to pay for this composting. So it's wonderful. We're going to be hiring some full-time staff for it. And then we had our first meeting today, and our next steps are to get like educational materials. Our first compost bins are going to be in they call it the atrium, the food court over here. And we decided what the best place would be to have that so that they're close enough to each other and it gets enough student traffic. There's going to be 2 of them. And then also there's going to be a student employee, ideally, who's going to sit in between them and kind of advise people on how to compost correctly, which is really wonderful. We're reaching out to student groups that contain a lot of people who are really passionate about compost and correct waste diversion. So I'm very excited to share that with all of you, and I'll keep you all updated. And then the second thing is I sit in on the President's Sustainability Commission. Who knows what that is? Okay, sweet. So that means I get to explain it to you. It's a sustainability fund that's managed, well, a commission that's managed and attended by almost every single person who is related to or in charge of an area of sustainability on campus. So that's the person who's in charge of the eco leaders, and then parking and transportation and things like that. And so they have a $25,000 fund per year, which they can use as grants towards sustainability projects brought to them by students. So in the past, something like that's happened is a little book that's a guide to sustainability at CSU. One person used it to implement clover and like nitrogen fixing plants in the great green areas of CSU, and a few other projects. So if you are passionate and have some ideas but need the funding, I would love to hear from you and work with you. So please let me know. Additionally, the Vision Zero Task Force, who knows what that is? Okay, Vision Zero Task Force is essentially a group of staff and ASCSU as the student representative who want to get the amount of like student and bike and student and car collisions down to zero, right? And so they work a lot on, they have some funds going towards that, and they're trying to think of how I want to word this, but essentially they're going to have an app now. That, you know, the RAM mobile, they're going to have a little section on that app where students can self-report, A, and then B, they can also self-report things like potholes on campus or broken lights, things like that, so that students have more of an opportunity to put their input in. So those are the things that are important that I tell you about, especially the President's Sustainability Commission. Please come talk to me. Thank you.
Good evening, Senate. I don't have much for you tonight. I guess first thing that's top of my mind, I got an email from Parking and Transportation Services, not because I had a ticket or anything, but because I have 7 slots to put students on the Parking and Transportation Services Board. And so I'm kind of trying to advertise in my classes, but it doesn't seem like there's much interest. But parking and transportation is always something that people have opinions about. And so if you would like to kind of be part of the solution and be at the table for those discussions, I will appoint you. Is there anyone, just by a show of hands, who would be interested in doing that? It happens once a month. It's the second Wednesday of every month, and it's from 12 to 1. And so you can eat lunch there if you need to, but it's just a good opportunity to be there while conversations around parking and transportation, along with Vision Zero, is kind of another thing that they focus on. So is there any interest, by a show of hands, in that? Jamie, thank you. Hey, let me write these down, actually. Thank you. Yanoski? Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I guess the next thing, we got to participate in interviews with the provost candidates. There are 3 finalists, and we've kind of narrowed it down to our top 2 that we're going to recommend. But it's going to be a really, really important role because that role is kind of meshed with the executive VP role. And so the person, whoever we decide to whoever the university decides to go with rather, will get a seat on the board of governors. And so it's a really good opportunity to interact and build a relationship with whoever this person is, to not only affect change academically, but on the administrative end as well in President Parsons' cabinet. The last thing, kind of along those lines, we did have a meeting with Vice President of Student Affairs Blanche Hughes, Chief of Staff Rico Munn, and President Parsons. And one of the upcoming things is the Goose concert that's happening on the LSC West lawn. Now, this is the first time in a handful of years that a concert has actually happened on campus of this magnitude anyway. And it'll kind of serve as a test bed for different promoting venues and organizations to see if Fort Collins is actually a viable venue to host people so people can come out and enjoy a concert. And so the more people we get to Goose, the better people we can have come to. This kind of sounds bad, I'm sorry. The more people we can get to come to Goose, the more headliners that we can have come to campus. I think that's a good way to phrase it. It's been floated that we could have Diplo in Canvas Stadium. So go to the Goose concert, please. That's all I had. Thank you.
Great. Great job.
Hello, everyone. If you haven't met me already, my name is Alex Silver. I use the he series of pronouns, and I'm the vice president of ASCSU. I have a few things I wanted to go over today. I know you've probably heard about it, read about it, all that, but Bike to School is next Wednesday. It is happening all day with the intention of promoting sustainable transportation, a fun way to exercise, and just a more accessible way to get to campus, and also helping to free up parking for other individuals on campus that may really need it. Real quick thing about parking. I went to Graduate Student Council. It was a fantastic experience. If you have the chance, I'd highly recommend going. I think it's the first Tuesday of every month. And I had an individual in the crowd come up to me and tell me that parking on campus for individuals that are disabled is more expensive. It's actually the most expensive parking spot. So they implored me to look into this, and I think it would be a great opportunity for the Accessibility Caucus to look into other specific projects similar to the buttons issue on campus. So I just kind of wanted to put that on your plate, and I'd be happy to work with you as well, Chair Trout. But yeah, Bike to School is happening. We're going to have free food on the LSC West lawn, so it won't be on the plaza. It'll be on the West lawn. There will be free burritos literally all morning. I think like 600 free burritos. Also chips, cookies, lemonade, water. We're going to have at least 2 bike shops, a ton of sustainability organizations across campus, and then also a few exercise focused groups out there, kind of just talking about what they do and how we can hopefully help to promote more sustainable transportation in the future. That night, there's going to be a concert by Funky Music Band. I would say it wrong. Or no, Funky Business Band. They do covers of popular songs in a funky way. It's really fun. They are quite popular in Fort Collins, so I'd recommend coming. I'll leave a few flyers on the front desk if you'd like to take some on the way out, give them to your friends, student organizations and such. That poster was sent out in the weekly newsletter. If you have any organizations that would be interested in coming and just getting some free music, I would highly recommend sending that poster out. In addition, I also wanted to shout out Madeline. She had messaged kind of the branch leaders about an event that's also happening during the same time as the concert. So you can pick and choose. You don't all have to come to the concert, but it's a fantastic event. And I assume you will talk about it more at some point tonight, potentially.
Can I for a second? 2 seconds?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the School of Social Work is doing a really, really cool workshop called Theater of the Oppressed from 6 to 7:30, and it's available. It's going to be held virtually, so as to get as many people to attend as possible. And what this is they have hired professional actors and social workers to play out scenarios, and they're running this workshop to interrupt microaggressions as they're happening. So it's a really cool interactive experience. There was a little bit of talk about like maybe we can record it and get it to ASCSU, but because of the nature of it being kind of covering sensitive topics, that space is not going to be recorded for some inherent reasons. But I would really encourage you guys to check it out. It's going to be an amazing opportunity. It was something that was mandatory training for all of the social work staff and faculty, and they saw a need in the community to bring it to students. So please check it out. I got a flyer. If you want me to send that out, I can put it in the Slack.
Concert just so happens to be from 5:30 to 7. So if you want to come for 30 minutes to the concert and then go to this fantastic opportunity, that would also make me really happy. It sounds really fun. And I'm sad I'll be missing it. Pacesetter Scholarship is up and running. It has been for, I think, 2 weeks. It closes September 24th at midnight. It's $4,500 up for grabs. I'm assuming it'll be applied to spring semester. We're hoping to give out 2 scholarships, so it'll come out to $2,250 for each individual. Myself and Jen Johnson are in charge of the scholarship. So please apply. Please encourage other individuals to apply. I'd like to get like a good amount of students in the pool of scholarships, and then we're hoping to bring it down to 10 people to interview. SFRB currently has 32 applicants, which is crazy. The limit is 30. So thank you to everyone in the room that helped to promote this. I know Kevin is hopefully going to be on the board in addition to potentially some other people in the room. But I think it's a fantastic opportunity. It just shows that there's a lot of student interest this year in being involved. And there's going to be a lot of different voices. Just reading the applications, there's going to be a lot of diversity that is covered within the board, which is, I think, is fantastic. UTFAB is also looking for student representation. UTFAB is the University Technology Fee Advisory Board. So a lot of opportunities to get involved. It's a little overwhelming, but if you're interested in focusing on Wi-Fi or other technology components in the classroom, please reach out to me. I'll also put something in the newsletter this week in regards to that. Lastly, I just kind of wanted to talk about some upcoming bills that potentially will be hitting the floor. I plan on working with Kevin or Senator Melchior to secure funding for pregnancy tests. This project happened because of the work that I had done and also Senator McCall from last year had done in relation with the WGAC. And we've distributed over 1,000 pregnancy tests since February, which is crazy. And it feels like every week they're running out of different locations across campus. So we might be proposing a small multi-$1,000 bill for that. That sounds kind of opposite. And then there will be some Lexes to focus on ranked choice voting for the next election. We're working with some technology people on campus to get that kind of up and running via FramWeb. And getting the other bill. In terms of the budget, we may be presenting a different way in order to go about sunset clauses, just so that we can have kind of more say in where our funds go. So if there's a sunset clause for 3 years or 4 years, we're hoping that people can come in at least once every year for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes and talk about where those funds are going. There's been kind of some issues when it comes to sunset clauses and the budgeting end of things that make it very difficult to make sure that those funds are kind of going where they're supposed to be, and then also giving us the idea of how much funds we have as an organization. So we want to clear that up because it's been very confusing for the past few administrations, including this one, and we want to provide more clarity and more transparency when it comes to budgeting for people to come. So yeah, thank you so much, and I appreciate the time.
Awesome, thank you. We will now move into judicial reports.
I'm not in the wires this time.
Okay. Hi, everyone. If you don't know or remember me, I'm Jamie Binder. I'm the Deputy Chief Justice. I'm filling in for Elena today. Just a couple of updates. The court has been a little bit busy with like trainings and stuff. Last week I did academic misconduct training. This week the court did AUHB court or committee training, and then next week we're doing conflict resolution training. Once our trainings are done and we resume our regular court meetings, we'll do a deep dive into the Constitution and student code of ethics. Other than that, we did receive an opinion request over the summer. We voted 0 to 7 to 0 to not take the opinion. I'm very confident in that decision. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to Elena or I. Other than that, that's about it. I'm in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11 to 1. If y'all want to chat, or Elena is in the office every day from 2 to 7. If you guys have any pressing questions or just want to talk judicial things. So yeah, that is it. Thank you.
Awesome. So now we will move into confidence business. So can I have the parliamentarian please put 2 hours on confidence clock? And with that, we'll move into the ratification of Director of Diversity and Inclusion. If you'd like to come up to the front now.
Hey guys, my name is Leticia Maria. Sorry. Hi guys, my name is Leticia Maria Tapia. I'm a third year student here at CSU. I'm studying political science and I am the appointed Director of Diversity and Inclusion for this academic year. You guys have any questions for me? Sammy?
Thank you. It's so good to see you there, Queen. I have a couple questions for you. How do you plan to uphold the university and ASCSU initiatives of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah, so I think that goes within my title as a director. I think the most important thing is listening to what students want to see on campus of inclusive diversity and equity, but also listening to what professionals have to say. So like a lot of the STPS directors have a lot of input. They have a lot of voice in what isn't going on in CSU in a higher position. I know there's a high turnover rate in those offices, and I think it's for a reason. And I think if student government really cares about those things, I think it's really important to add those voices in there and start initiatives that actually, one, listen to them, but two, actually have action, not just like fake activism in a way.
How do you plan to recognize your inherent bias?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think a lot of people, when they think of diversity and inclusion, they always forget equity. And I think it's really important to one, understand that I have privilege within myself. I am a white woman, even though I hold Latin identities. I think it's super important it's super important to acknowledge that sometimes we only focus on those certain identities. So when you think about biases, I think that's when it's really important to add in all those different voices that come into play of what the space needs to look like. And that kind of ties back to my work with SGPS offices. I think those biases get counter off as soon as you start having other people get represented within the work that you want to do. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that did answer my question. Thank you. How do you plan to balance ASCSU school and outside work if that's applicable?
Yeah, so I think balance is really important in the sense of like, it's not going to be complicated if you like what you do and if you're passionate. And I've always had a passion for equity and inclusion, especially in higher ed. I think our students need to be represented and they actually there needs to be a space for them. And I think all the things that I do, I care for them. So it never feels so overwhelming because I care. And also I think it's about priorities and understanding that you can't do everything and be all to all the people. And I think that's when all the aid from directors and student voices and other senators really comes into play.
Awesome. That's all the questions I have for you. I yield the balance one time.
Are there any other questions? Okay, being none, we will move into a period of discussion and debate. So I'll have this card again for the time being. And then we will start discussion and debate with the first row placard.
Hey y'all. I am so incredibly excited to have Lexi up here as a director of diversity and inclusion. For some background, I worked very closely with her within Ramride, within off-campus life. She was a night operations coordinator, as well as the community outreach coordinator within that. So making sure that folks knew what Ramride was. And I think she was successful in that. She was key to ensuring that when Ramride was rebranding and going through its dark times, that she was there to be a key voice in ensuring that we are still being accessible to all student sizes, student groups, et cetera, making sure that bigger student organizations weren't working over smaller organizations for contracts. She's been a huge advocate since I have known her, and that is something that has been promoted. She didn't flex this off, but she should have, if I can find it. She was recently given the scholarship of the CSU Boyer Scholarship, previously known as the Obama Shetsky Scholarship for Public Service. And that is a super huge deal. It is my understanding that she is the first CSU student to ever gain that scholarship. So I'm incredibly proud of her just as an individual. I'm incredibly proud of her being in the space, and I know that she's going to take on this position head on. So with that, I happily yield the rest of my time.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Chairman Alty?
Just a point of information, can you just explain what's going down for the new folks?
Sorry. Okay, so right now we are doing a ratification of someone who's going to be appointed in the executive branch. So right now we're basically voting on whether we officially want them in there, even though they already have the job, or just kind of just officially putting them into that position. So right now we're just discussing just the candidate, and after that we will do a vote of whether they're being ratified or not tonight. Especially Cambridge.
Just, I want to have a little bit of clarification here. So it's not necessarily a vote of yes or no. As I understand it, a vote of confidence is just to affirm that we believe this person is competent and can fulfill the position. It's not a yes or no. It's a you're not incompetent. We will allow this to move forward. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Chaitra?
I'll also add on to that if folks are like, no, then that does have weight. Then if, let's say, Senate votes no, we don't have confidence that Letty could be D&I director, then it would be the executive branch would have to find a new D&I director. So it's yes and no, kind of. Like she's already gone through the interview process through president, vice president, and has already been briefed on kind of things that are happening within the executive branch, to my understanding. But this would just be this is the official okay from the Senate that you have the job. Just to add further clarification.
Senator Levy? I vote to move this candidate with unanimous consent. Okay. So moving on to the period of discussion and debate, there has been a motion to vote this candidate with unanimous consent. Is there any dissent to this? Seeing none, this candidate is approved with unanimous consent. Is the deputy chief still here? Okay, so, okay.
I haven't pulled up where it's like,
Thank you. Didn't know that was up. Okay, so I'll just have you repeat after me. Okay, I state your name.
I, Leticia Martinez Tapia,
Do solemnly swear to defend and uphold
do solemnly swear to defend and uphold
the rules and regulations set forth by the Constitution
the rules and regulations set forth by the Constitution
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
and will rightfully perform
and will rightfully perform
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congrats. All right, so now we will move into the election of Women's Caucus Chair. Are there any nominations or self-nominations? Senator Frisky? I nominate myself. Is that awesome? Are there any other nominations for this position or self-nominations? No? Okay, seeing none, I will have Senator Frisky come to the front so you can present yourself.
All right. Hi, I am Olivia Frisky, and I am interested in being the Women's Caucus Chair. I am currently a senator that represents the WGAC, which I feel like absolutely work together. And it would be almost essential to work with the WGAC. They have lots of great resources that I would on how to direct the Women's Caucus. And I know that I am new. This is my first time in Senate, but I have had experience in the past in the government area. I have worked with like Loveland City Councils and all sorts of stuff in between. But I really feel like this could be something that I am very passionate about, is really bringing intersectionality to the WGAC and to the Senate in general. And so looking at the Women's Caucus as an opportunity to help do that and to help represent voices that may not always be represented.
Awesome. Are there any questions? Hi there. So I have a couple questions. So how do you plan on going to student government and managing school, if that's applicable? How do you plan to manage all of those things throughout the year?
Yes, so I have a schedule laid out. I try to really schedule myself well, and I've been doing better at it. But at this moment, I have lower commitments. Being a sophomore, I haven't really dove right into everything yet. So I feel like I have enough time that I can put as much effort as I possibly can towards the Women's Caucus and really grow with it.
Awesome, thank you. And then another question is, it is your job to represent all identities, not just the ones that you hold. How do you intend to ensure that you are doing this?
Absolutely. So I have done a lot of classes here and talked with a lot of the people that work at the WGAC. And so I've learned a lot about intersectionality and understanding my own privileges. So I think it's really important to look at those biases that I hold and look at those privileges that I hold, and then be able to see where I need to improve at and where I am not representing those voices around me. So I definitely think that I'm very committed and very open. I even have thought, I'm like, it should expand past just women in the Women's Caucus, include all identities as they want to participate. And I think it's, that would be definitely part of it, because part of the Women Gender and Advocacy Center and part of women's issues in general also involve issues of gender, and that affects everyone.
Awesome, thank you so much for your answers. I yield my time. Awesome. Are there any other questions for
you touched on this a little bit, which is amazing, but then do you think you could make it in your role, your work, to expand the Women's Caucus to include all oppressed genders, not just that of women?
Absolutely. That is my main goal, is to first expand it and make sure that all identities, everyone has a gender of some sort, and we have to understand that it's a construct and that all different identities have different experiences with gender, and that is essential when we talk about women and gender advocacy and when women and gender issues, is to definitely have all identities.
Chair Kelly.
Motion to previous question.
Second.
Okay, there has been a motion previous question with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, ayes have it. So now we will now move into a period of discussion and debate. She's already on top of it. And first placard, I saw Senator Davis first. Keep the placards up with you.
I'll make it quick.
I have nothing but good things to say. I know that Senator Frisky has plenty of ideas to already expand the Women's Caucus and to make it something that can do really good work. So I know that if we did appoint her, she would not like put it aside. She would definitely make it something that can be incredible and do really good work. So I believe that Senator Frisky should be nominated.
Awesome, thank you. I have Senator Levy next.
I just want to say you have to be enthusiastic about like these spaces to like keep yourself from drowning in like the stress of it. And like Olivia has that enthusiasm, especially also as a sophomore, to be able to just take this and fly with it for 2 years and do a great job. I got the privilege of working with her in the Red Whistle Brigade over the summer. And I just know that she's gonna do amazing at this job. So yeah, just wanna let you know about that.
Senator Schumer.
Hi, she had reached out to me last week and had asked me a bunch of questions as to what she could do with the Women's Caucus, and that gave me a lot of hope that maybe we'll see something different. Maybe we'll see, the Accessibility Caucus kind of be born out of this. Like we've been hoping, kind of giving Women's Caucus a job, kind of more of a purpose. And that's something that I really struggled with, and it really seems like she has the drive and she has the interest to do something more and to keep going with it. Like our previous senators had said, maybe a couple of years, still want it. And I'll definitely be voting yes for her. Thank you. Chair Trump?
Honestly, I haven't seen someone that excited about like what they want to do with a caucus in a really long time. And I've been here for 2 years roughly. And I've seen with the intention of Women's Caucus, it's been really difficult for it to give it a clear purpose, especially with D&I Caucus becoming DEI Affairs Committee. It kind of did leave Women's Caucus off to the side, but her energy of going like, no, this is going to become like a big thing, like we can make it become a big thing again within ASCSU and in the Senate as a whole gives me a lot of optimism about the caucus and its goals for this school year. So that's all I have to say.
Chair Maloney.
Hello. Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate the individual's gumption. I forgot their name. Sorry.
Senator Frisky.
Thank you. Senator Frisky's gumption in aiming for this caucus chair position. I'm voting yes, obviously, because like I'm happy for the enthusiasm. I'm interested in working closely with her because, as stated by Sammy, DEI and Women's Caucus do have a lot of overlap with each other, and I'd be very inclined to work with her and this stuff for me. I'm just voting yes. This is what it boils down to. I'm voting yes. I think y'all should vote yes because she's enthusiastic, she's excited, and she's probably the only person who so far voted for themselves. So yeah.
Chair Kelly.
I motion the previous question.
Second.
All right, so there's been a motion for this question, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? The ayes have it. Oh, I saw Chair Oswald first. Motion to approve this candidate with unanimous consent.
Second.
You don't need a second, but that's okay. Okay, so there's been a motion for unanimous consent.
You guys, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, is there any dissent to this candidate? All right, seeing none, she's unanimously approved. Awesome, I will now give you the oath. Okay, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Olivia Frisky,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to defend and uphold
to defend and uphold
the rules and regulations set forth
the rules and regulations set forth
by the Constitution of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
by the Constitution of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
and will rightfully perform
the
duties of my office
the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congrats. Awesome. So now, do not have anything in old business, we'll move into new business. So we'll start with Bill 5307, hiring of ASCSU lobbyists. If you want to come down and present.
Could you read it in the abstract?
This bill will ensure funding to enable the strong and prevalent representation of ASCSU and its constituents on the local, county, and state level through a skilled lobbying firm. You can use that.
Yeah, I guess we can. I kind of want to look at the bill language.
No, that's
stuff.
fine. Not sure how good that mic works, though.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. I just want to provide a little bit of context for, I guess, why this is happening. The Colorado State Legislature is unique in that it is only in session for 4 or 5 months throughout the year. And each legislator gets 5 bills that they can introduce, but more do get introduced than 5 per person. And so you'll have a period of 4 or 5 months where 800 pieces of legislation are introduced. You'll have committee hearings at 2 a.m. where the public can't necessarily have a say in what happens because we aren't watching as closely as professionals can. And so that's kind of the mindset going into this, why we think a lobbyist is absolutely essential, because the way that our state government is set up, it's just impossible for students, even a coalition of students, to actively understand what's happening from a moment-to-moment basis. Some of you might remember the governor's land use bill that was introduced last session. And it seemed like every 2 hours there was a different version of the land use bill because it had just gone through so many amendments. And so unless you're on the ground at the Capitol actually talking to legislators, you really won't have a say in the process. Another thing to contextualize why I think this is necessary, I have Representative Basenecker's personal cell phone number, and I would be at the Capitol sometimes and try to reach out to him, and it just wasn't happening because he's just so busy going to committees, speaking with other legislators, and getting airtime with lobbyists. And so really, I think the way to elevate ASCSU on all levels, especially the state level, a lobbyist is imperative. And so I'll hand it over to Mike to provide a little bit more information.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you guys. I was here last week. And to kind of give a concrete story, an example of why having a professional contract lobbyist represent us at the Capitol is so important. There's a committee called the Joint Budget Committee, and they essentially decide on the state budget every single year. I was fortunate enough to do an internship at the state legislature last year. And when the Joint Budget Committee met, they decided on funding for higher education. And in that room, there were 0 voices and 0 representation for students. That's between CSU, Colorado University, Colorado College, every college in Colorado. There's not a single voice representing our interests in that. That coincided with CSU raising tuition. So at the same time CSU was raising tuition, no one was there to represent students' voices in that conversation. That's just one example of what a lobbyist could do for us. But it's a concrete example of why we need a lobbyist and the difference they can make for us.
So another reason why we need a lobbyist is, so you all heard about LSAP, that's your Strategic Advisory Board. I'm the one who ran it last year. We did not have a lobbyist, and we honestly couldn't do that much last year because we didn't have anyone on the level who was, or at the Capitol, who was saying, this is going on, this is who supports the bill you like, this is who doesn't support the bill you like. We didn't do any of that, so we were kind of going blind last year in LSAP, which if we had a lobbyist with LSAB, it'll make us lives would come in. They'll be like, yeah, this bill is fairly popular, we should definitely endorse it, or, you know, be like, hey, this bill is 50-50, you all need to do a little more work if we want to get passed. So if you're doing LSAT and want to get stuff done, now with this lobbyist, we get one, it'll make it a much more fun board and we'll be able to advocate even more on the General Assembly level as well.
I'll just add a little bit more specifics. My predecessor, Rob Long, he had Evan, the former director of governmental affairs, try to find a lobbying firm to go with, and Bowditch and Castle is the firm that Evan chose last year. And so back then, the cost for the lobbying services was $30,000. And feasibly, we cannot pay anywhere near $30,000, especially with our how our executive budget is looking. But there is good news, and I love good news because we hired Mike, and we hired Mike because of his experience at the state capitol. He did the internship for a semester, and he just so happened to do the internship under the lobbyist, under Ed and Jen, who we've decided to go with. And so it was still $30,000. And so we're kind of brainstorming ways to get the cost lower because it's just a year contract. And so Mike met with Jen, who actually happens to teach the class at CSU, in order to go to the Capitol and intern. And so that firm also has a connection to CSU, which is really, really important. So that's Jen. And then Ed, on the other hand, used to be the CFO for CSU. And so he has a connection to the university. They also represent the city of Fort Collins. And so I think there's quite a bit of overlap where this is just a really good situation for us. So to get back to the cost, Mike had a lunch meeting with Jen and was essentially going to pitch the idea of just Jen services for a decreased cost, and I guess less lobbying services for a decreased cost. She was not okay with that. She wanted to do full services, and she wanted to bring Ed into the package deal, but not for $30,000, for $14,000. And so we're getting the full services, both of them top tier lobbyists, for half the cost. And so if we don't jump on this opportunity, I really realistically don't think we'll have another one. I have connections to lobbyists at the state capitol, and their services cost tens of thousands of dollars, and their quality, and Ed and Jen are high quality. And so we're bringing this bill before you. It asks $10,000 from the Senate, but this is an investment in, I guess, what the students have showed to us is important to them. Finances are at the top of students' minds, and CSU will not hesitate to raise tuition again if they feel that they need the money, or even if they don't need the money, frankly. And so unless there's someone on the opposite end of that at the state legislature telling them that the state should not approve a tuition increase for this institution, no one else is going to push back on that. And so really, I cannot stress the importance of elevating ASCSU to this level, but making sure that we're actually representing students on all levels of government. So I guess we'll take questions now if any of you have questions. Evan has something to add.
So also the context with the price. So one's a freshman and sophomore, we did a lobbyist. They cost $16,000. There's only one person, and they did only about half the services that Jennifer and Ed are going to do. So like, if we had a lobbyist beforehand, it wouldn't be this price. However, as I've looked, as everyone else has looked, this one gives us some of the best benefits, and it is a little bit cheaper than a normal lobbyist we could maybe get.
Questions?
I just want to circle back. So did you say that Jim Castle teaches a course here at CSU?
Yeah, she actually teaches 2 courses at CSU. So she teaches the Colorado legislature class. So if you want to do the internship at the Colorado legislature, you can take her class. And she also teaches, I think it's Polls 101 American government, or no, it's Polls 103 state and local government.
is there any concern of a conflict of interest of hiring someone who works here as a professor to also act as a lobbyist on our behalf?
No, I personally, I don't foresee a conflict of interest, and going through the contract procurement process, there hasn't been any conflicts of interest. And she's not a full-time professor, she's just an instructor.
If I could add to that, legal counsel will kind of snuff that out as well when they review the contract. And then I guess another thing I would add to that, I'd be more concerned if, I don't know, I see a clear distinction between working for CSU and then I guess representing ASCSU, because our interests are, I guess, different than the interests of professors, and we wouldn't necessarily be looking at legislation that would impact CSU professors, if that makes sense.
And then another thing, like, I understand where this person's coming from, but I feel like another very concern is who else does the lobbyists represent? Our former lobbyists represented us. They also represented organizations that would not always support the same stuff as us. However, this lobbyist, we have made sure that anyone else they work with is not going to conflict with who we want to, whoever her other clients or their other clients, those individuals are never going to have conflict with policy that we want to get across. Whereas with the laws we had 3 years ago, sometimes it did happen where if they had another client and they wanted a certain policy, and us as a client wanted a different way in that policy, she would choose that client to the bus. So this time, we made sure that that conflict of interest, which in my opinion is even worse, does not happen like it has happened, unfortunately.
And if I could add to the point that Evan just made, it's a real benefit that there's two lobbyists in this firm versus our previous lobbyists where there's just one lobbyist. In an instance where Ed and Jen have clients that disagree, Ed takes one side, Jennifer takes the other side, and they lobby separately. So even if there are conflicts of interest with other clients, that's something they can work around pretty easily.
I know we talked about tuition stuff. What specific policy actions would we be asking them to lobby on our behalf for?
So tuition is a big thing, and that kind of ties into what the Joint Budget Committee does when they make the big ticket items for what the state budget is going to look like. So that kind of covers the tuition piece of it. Of course, affordable housing measures will be looped in with that. Another thing that I want to push forward, and I think this is, this is a win-win-win. It's something that Director Ellis, the director of the LSC, had kind of floated the idea to me. It's to take the tax off of textbooks for college students, because when you have to buy 4, 5, 6 different textbooks each semester, that money adds up. And so I think that's a real clear, easy way of relieving some financial burdens on students, but also delivering a big win for students across the state.
All right, last question I got. In doing research on Ballot Issue Castle, I went to the website and they have a legislation page. On there it says that you should have published an annual legislative preview about what's coming up. The most recent one they published is for the 2020 legislative session. How would you sort of assuage any concerns that a lobbying group that came to keep their website updated would be able to effectively advocate on our behalf?
So something I'll say about the lobbying industry, and I guess politics in general, it's, Ed and Jen find their clients not necessarily through their website or through online ads, but through their personal connections. They've both had numerous careers before lobbying, and I think they have a ton of clients. So keeping their website up to date probably just hasn't been a priority for them because they are just working so hard for their clients.
And another thing is, so if you want to, I try and encourage all of you honestly, if you go onto the Secretary of State website, go onto lobbyists and look up this lobbyist. They all sit on there. It's to have all the data, including this last year on there. Because again, it might not be the website, but again, it should be on there. So I agree with you. We should double check these people. However, with the website, I do know ASCSU, our website also was not correctly updated. I'm pretty sure last year we couldn't see a single bill. So I do understand your concern about the website. However, much because of how busy they are, if the same concern is comes up again once we look at the Secretary of State. That's, I think, when we should actually be kind of.
Senator Moquar, I'm sorry, but you're out of time.
I just have some questions about how. Sorry, there was someone before you. I didn't know that, so I got you down. We had actually Senator Levy. Hi, everyone. Just like two quick questions. I'll read them both first, and then if you could answer the first one, I think that'd be awesome. So I'm just kind of confused, like on the bill, it says right behind you actually, that it would be reserved for the 2023-24 payment. Is that from until it starts to when 2024 starts? Is it through 2024? Like how long is this $14,000 gonna last us for lobbying? And then the other thing is how do we as ASCSU decide what they go represent? Like, how do we enforce that? How do we make those decisions? And like, how are we, I don't know, I'm just kind of not really sure how lobbying works all that well. So it'd be super awesome.
Yeah, so to answer the first question, it would be for the 23-24 academic year. And then it would just be essentially a renewal if the next administration decides to go through with that. And then to your question about how we decide what stances to take or what positions, it's actually baked into the governmental affairs role for the Legislative Strategic Advisory Board. And so through LSAB, we get to see legislation. And from there, ASCSU members in LSAB would come forward and vote and kind of see which direction we want to go with policy. I guess for the big ticket items on whether we want to support or oppose something, we could always come to Senate and just ask how we're feeling about things. And then on top of that, if there are senators here that are interested in a certain piece of legislation that surrounds higher ed, by all means, bring it up to us and we'll consider it.
Thank you. So just to clarify, just trying to affirm what you're saying. So like this would be, we wouldn't, like Senate wouldn't necessarily be interacting with these people as much as like a different group of students in our student government would be. Is what you're saying?
Well, Ed and Jen, they will come to Senate at some point to just, I guess, get the opinions of everyone in the organization. But kind of baked into the governmental affairs role is the LSAT position. And so we're actually looking, are we still looking for LSAT members to serve on the board? So if that's something that anyone in here is interested in doing, by all means, be at the table. So we can have really robust discussions about which pieces of legislation to go forward with.
And so with LSAB, just because, again, I ran LSAB last year, so I know a little more Nick. Nick will in LSAB, though, so I can't LSAB. The makeup of LSAB is, on LSAB, there's the president, the speaker of the Senate, 2 senators who are elected by you all, and then also 3 to executive, who can be nominated by the president, who then they have to get ratified by the Senate. As well, we'll be adding for non-ASU students, just so we get a student voice. Those 4 individuals will also be ratified by the Senate body, just so you all do get to see, have some even more input about even who is going to be talking on that side.
Thank you. Then we have Associate Camberg.
Okay, so this is essentially going to be a service that serves the whole student body. Do you feel that maybe only having LSAT be the only outlet of what legislation and how we want to move forward, do you see that as maybe a little bit of a barrier to having a democratic voice at the local, state, governmental level?
I think with the student body as large as we have, we open the board to non-ASCSU students. We've had interest in it. It's definitely important to have those voices. But when you have a 33,000 student body that you represent, I guess it's just hard to get everyone's opinion on it. That's why we want to encourage people to join LSAT. I guess, a lot of big companies have these executive committees that make decisions on the greater half of companies. Just for an example, one one of their clients is the Economic Development Council of Colorado. They have an executive body, kind of like LSAB. They meet every other week with the lobbyists, and they give them their official policy stances. So I think those 4 students who serve on LSAB outside of ASCSU, I think they can serve as representatives of the student body.
I'm sorry, but we're now out of time for our question and answer period. If this would like to be extended, then I will require a simple majority vote.
Would anyone like to extend the question and answer period?
Point of information, how many people are on the speaker list?
2, but one of them is Chair Kelly, which assumably.
I motion to exhaust the speaker list.
Point of order, there's no need to exhaust the speakers list right now because there is no more time.
I motion to extend the period of question and answer by 10 minutes.
A motion has been made to extend the Q&A period by 10 minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Alrighty, we'll go by just voice vote. All those in favor of extending it for 10 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Any extensions?
Aye.
I will say the ayes have it. The question and answer period is suspended by 10 minutes. Associate Camber, did they finish answering their questions?
I did want to add something to that as well. I think you perfectly described what our job is as student representatives, to come to our constituents and see what their concerns are and what's at the top of their mind. And then, I mean, we relay that message to the highest levels we can. We kind of described the makeup of LSAB, but those are just the voting members. Anyone is welcome to join the meetings and give their opinions. They just won't necessarily be voting members.
So if any student says, hey, I heard that ASCSU has dedicated funds to have a lobbyist, these are the issues that I would like to see pushed forward, then that is the best way. They don't have to be a voting member, but just say, this is the method. This is the route to take, is through that committee. And is that information available of when that committee is meeting and what their goal is available online for anyone to find?
Yeah, so that committee or that board will meet on Tuesdays in the fall from 1 to 2 every other Tuesday. We're hoping to have that board ratified next week on the 20th. And then our first meeting will be the 26th, and then every other Tuesday from there. And to your point of making it accessible to know when those meetings are, I'm sure we can work with the marketing team to get that out to students. I'm sure we put on the ASCSU website, sending out weekly emails. And any other suggestions that you all have, I thought we could advertise that better. So we definitely appreciate it.
And is it in this bill, I'm just kind of scanning, how needs of the students are going to be expressed to ASCSU, to this lobbying group? Is it in the bill?
It's not in the bill language itself. It's more of a process that's kind of baked into LSAB. And so this kind of just adds on to an existing governing body that we've had for, I don't even know how long, but LSAB has existed for a while. I guess the departure of the lobbyists for the last 2 years have kind of rendered it less impactful and effective. But I guess once everything gets fleshed out, I mean, that's kind of the role of LSAB. That's why it's not in the bill. That's it.
It should be in the bylaws. I'll happily, we can email anyone who wants to file it. It should also be, if it's not on the website, we'll also work with the front desk on the website. That honestly should be under the Department of Local Policy, the bylaws of LSAB. So if it's on there, I think that's what we are trying to put out there. But yeah, as President DeSalvo said, the reason it's not in the bill is because this bill simply states what we're doing. The work we've already done at LSAB, the bylaws of LSAB, that states what we're going to do for students. And also our job descriptions. Both me and Stella were ratified and hired because we're going to be advocating for students on LSAB. That was one of our biggest rules. And we applied.
I yield my time.
Thank you. I also want to bring some clarification. During that last vote, if y'all felt that there was more ayes or more no's than ayes, you could always call division. Which just means we do a vote where we can count, we can actually see how many there is. Or if you didn't like the decision I made, you can always overrule me. And that I think requires a 2/3 vote. So just giving y'all your options, just in case y'all want to stop the question and answer time and didn't feel that the decision I made was correct. Next on our speakers list, we have Senator Reese.
Hi, I haven't used one of these except to say present, so I've been a little stumbling. I was just wondering, you did mention that Jen and Ed, the lobbyists, proposed are of high quality. I was wondering how this information was assessed.
I would say that, there's many ways you can assess that. But I think it's their careers that they had before lobbying that really set them apart. Bear with me for a second, but Ed's journey started, he went to Colorado College. And then after that, he worked at the Capitol for 5 years, and then he got his master's in public policy at Harvard University. He was then the CFO, or actually he came back to Colorado. He worked in the governor's office for a number of years as a budget analyst. He was then the CFO for the CSU system, and then he became a lobbyist. Jennifer got her undergraduate in Kansas. She came to Colorado, worked in the state legislature she was an aide for a representative. She got her master's in international affairs at Denver University. And then she worked for Governor Hickenlooper for a number of years. Now she's a lobbyist. And just looking at their client list and who they represent, and most importantly for us, the results that they get is really important.
To add on to that, I had a meeting with Mayor Arndt, and I had asked because Ed and Jen represent Fort Collins, the city of Fort Collins, and she couldn't recommend them enough. And so I trust Jenny's judgment.
And a third thing is, so this was not actually, like, when we first time decided if we should do that in Jen, Nick and Michael weren't even on the executive. This was a decision about a previous administration. They're like, hey, these people seem really good. We also do it. I've met with them as government affairs before I knew what they even did at the Capitol, or barely knew. I was like, these people seem good. I had no conflict of interest when I made a decision. When I brought it to everyone else, they were okay with it too. And then everyone else, basically, as you kind of heard, Michael, me, Stella, DeSalvo, and me have all kind of had 3 different ways where we decided, where we came to the conclusion that these individuals were really good. So I feel like because of that, we have no conflict of interest, and we just felt like, and from the experience, that they are going to be the best candidates. But I think, great question to ask, but I think it is a good question to ask, just to make sure.
And just one more point on that topic. We're inviting them to come to Senate in the next few weeks for a time that works for them. I think a great question you could ask them is the results that they get for their clients. And especially this past legislative session, they had an extensive list of accomplishments. So I think that'd be a great question to ask them.
Awesome. One other question. I was wondering, because you did mention that these lobbyists differ from those we've had in the past and how they don't have clients who seem to have conflicts of interest. I was wondering if there are any examples of said clients that you could provide.
Just to, I guess, speak on the past lobbyist, Jen Penn, she worked for Dome Strategies. I guess there was an issue where she wouldn't support legislation that was particularly divisive, like gun rights issues or reproductive rights. Those were pretty much the only things that were off the table for that lobbyist. And that's somewhat typical, especially for, I guess, what we're trying to accomplish that is centered around higher ed and maybe youth issues, that those more controversial pieces of legislation, lobbyists typically don't even take positions on that because it extends a lot of political capital for very little reason, I would say. Yeah, anything to add?
Yeah, to expand on their clientele, they represent a lot of cities and counties throughout Fort Collins. They represent like the Golf Association, the 8 producers. So there's no real direct conflict of interest. They're not representing CSU system at the same time. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And you have the rest of your time.
Thank you. Next we have Chair Kelly.
How many people are on the speakers list?
One person behind you.
I
Please
motion
say-
to exhaust the speakers list.
There's been a motion to.
Second.
All those in favor of exhausting the speakers list, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Alrighty, the speakers list has been exhausted. Chair Kelly, is there anything you'd like to say? Alrighty, last we have Senator Schultz.
Hi, I was just wondering if there was a timeline on this, if there was like a deadline to when you're expecting to get them, kind of ballpark dates.
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, as soon as possible. We've already, we've been in contact with them and we're starting to make plans and stuff. Because for them, it's the relationship that really matters. They don't expect the first payment until January. So we have some time to take care of the funds and the contract procurement. As you can imagine, it's taking a while because it has to work through the bureaucracy of CSU. But they want to start getting working. They care about students. They've been involved in education for a while now. I'd say for us, the biggest timeline crunch is just getting LSAP ratified next week. And then after that, our first guest speaker at LSAP on the 26th is going to be Ed Dodge, one of the partners. But other than that, we don't really have, strict timeline other than we want to do this efficiently so we can start things well.
We are once again out of time.
Okay. Great. And with that, appreciate y'all. We will send this bill to budgetary and university affairs. Next on our agenda, we have the Senate job descriptions. This one's gonna be a fun one, y'all. I can't share right. Yeah. It's gonna be a long session for you. Alrighty, y'all. Senate job descriptions, mostly explaining what your job description is, what our job description is, and everyone's in here except for the clerk and executive. There are some things that I was informed about changing, or at least defining, when I sent these to our current directors of Senate. We have two who kind of are watching over us at the moment. Is to explain what good standing is. So since we don't have like a specific GPA in our job descriptions, good standing is mostly just meaning like if you look into your RAMWeb, it'll say good standing with the university, and that's what we're gonna go off of. And we're actually gonna start doing GPA checks this year, y'all. So keep those grades up. And then there's some formatting issues, but that can be dealt with another day. I've also been kind of informed to remove the one-on-one conversations with fellow senators as a way to complete an office hour. Only because one of the advisors feels that it is like a way that people can kind of get around not doing actual work as an office hour and just kind of having a meaningless conversation. So I would like to remove that from the Senate, from associate and senator job descriptions as one-on-one conversations. And then, yeah, that's my little presentation. If anyone has any, sorry, but if anyone has any questions, we'll start with the first race package, but also. Are you planning to expedite this tonight? Yes, I do plan to expedite it tonight. Okay, thank you.
Information, can you clarify what expedite means for new people?
Yeah, of course. So
When I say I'm gonna expedite this bill, this means this is the first and only reading that we are going to do of this bill. It will not go into committee and be shown, I'll say anywhere else. So that means everything that is on the bill and on your job descriptions right now will be permanent unless changed. And after the signature of President DeSalvo. I hope that explained it a little bit.
So first off, just point of clarification, the Colorado State University catalog lists scholastic standards and defines what good standing is. Is a minimum cumulative GPA for undergrad of 2.0 on the 4.0 scale, and for graduate students, 3.0 on the 4.0 scale. Then I also had a question concerning the spring retreat, fall retreat, and spring training session. The way it's worded for all these job descriptions says attend the highly recommended. I just want a clarification, is that a requirement or a recommendation to attend those?
I think specifically in the job descriptions, it's more of a recommendation, mostly because unlike executive, a lot of us don't get paid over summer. And so it's kind of hard to be like, you need to come to a retreat where you have to find your own housing. You have to find almost your own transportation. And like, you have to find a lot of stuff to be here on campus early before school starts. So I would say it's more, I would keep it as that highly recommended, but like not required.
Thank you. I yield.
Cool. Are there any other questions? All right. Seeing
Right,
none.
I motion to expedite this bill.
Okay, so there has been a second. For the motion to expedite. All those in favor say aye. Okay, all those opposed? Abstentions? Is that, oh, okay. So I'll say the ayes have it. This bill is expedited.
Can I get the vote to pass it?
Yes, okay, so we'll do this by voice vote as well. So all those in favor of passing this bill, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? All right, this bill is passed.
Yay.
I would like to ask a quick question to the Senate body before I make any other motions. The judicial job descriptions have also been sitting in committee emails for a while, and I need to talk to mostly Chief Justice Drexel about it. But I almost feel comfortable about pulling them out of committee during this session and passing them as of right now. And I would like to know just any opinions on that. Chair, no, Oslo.
I think it would be best to talk to Justice
Drexel.
Drexel first, because sometimes they may want the document to go through the committee process in its entirety. So it might be up to, like, they might have a different one. If you already talked to them, I'd do it, because I think we have a high chance of getting it passed tonight, so, but, yeah.
Thank you. Senator Melchior, did you have something to say, or did Associate Member?
As I understand, this would present an accessibility issue, no?
No, because it was presented during an emergency session. And so that means it has already gone through its first read and been sent to committee. So it has been sent out in a weekly email.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Melchior?
Just because this went out in an emergency session, I know not everyone in the room had a chance to necessarily read through, review, and familiarize themselves. So I'm not against pulling it back from committee. However, I would prefer to do that next week, so everyone has that chance to prepare before trying to pull this back and expedite it without committee review. I yield.
Gotcha. All righty.
With that, I will have the front desk send it out in this next weekly email. And I will talk to Chief Justice Truxall about motioning to pull it out of committee. And with that, if I was to motion to pull it out of committee, it would need to pass by a majority vote here. And then after that, it would go into passing the bill or not. So they would need to ask for expedition on the bill. Past that, we are on to ending roll call. Now, I've been asked that if wanted, y'all could do beginning roll calls, ending roll call. If one, I can't make that motion, someone else would have to make the motion. You can say it.
I move to use beginning roll call as ended roll call.
Can we make a clause in there for anyone who arrived late?
Anyone who arrived late, the clerk would be kind enough to put their name on it.
All right, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? All righty, the ayes have it. And with that, we have legislative officer reports. I have another question for y'all. So I was informed by Vice President Silverheart that next week or next Wednesday is Bike to School, and that they have a concert that goes on from like 5:30 to 7. And I was asked by him to start Senate at 7, but he is not the person sitting in Senate. We are the people who have to sit here when it starts at 7 and goes till later. And so I want to know y'all's opinion about starting at 7. Because I know that whatever happens, yeah, they have 5 to 7. So you would be losing 30 minutes of that Bike to School, whatever concert I think that's happening at that time. But I preference y'all's time over an event, an extra 30 minutes of an event. So whatever y'all feel like needs to do for next week. I saw said Chair Kelly.
This is just a one-time thing. Okay.
Yes, but we also have other stuff that'll start us earlier during the school year, like I will get to during the rest of my. Associate Burt.
I personally would rather start at 6:30. I just getting home later and later, especially because I have to walk sometimes, not the best option for me. Even though this is a one-time thing, and I do appreciate that, I think, is there like, can I get a show of hands on how many people want to go to this concert? That's sick, gang. Yeah. So I think we should probably start at 6:30. Gives us more time to get home, gives us more time to do work, especially because a lot of us have duties outside of this space. So yeah.
Thank you, Associate Kemper.
I had reached out to a few people about the other event happening at that time, the Theater of the Oppressed, as a potential DEI-J training and or group cohesion event. So my vested interest in this is not necessarily Bike to School or the concert. It's this really important community building exercise. And so I would like to voice an opinion that we start a little bit later and make room for that, because I think it's needed in this space. So I didn't raise my hand for that because that's not the event I'm interested in. But I think it could be really beneficial to this space if we could get as much ASCSU attendance to that as possible. Thank you.
Senator Reed.
I've just been working on standing up for myself and my boundaries. So I'm gonna just say, I can't do that. Like, I would love to support that, but my life is very blocked out and I have this time for Senate and this time only. Like, so I would take care of myself, and whatever that would mean for that night, I would be available during 6:30 to an earlier time. So
Thank you. Also, to kind of back on what you were saying, Associate Camber, with my other 2 announcements, we do have a sexual harassment training that everyone is required to be at unless you have had prior sexual harassment training this year. So if you are like an RA, or if you have done any other training for like, the SDPS offices or something earlier, and you have gone through the sexual harassment training, I need you to get your boss or your director to send me those like hours that you spent during that sexual harassment training. Also, we do have a DEI training on October 11th that I had scheduled over summer.
And so I do want to promote the event that you did let us know about. And if anyone would like to go to that event and show up late here, I will be okay with it. You can show up late, just please let me know, or someone else on the legislative cabinet. But as it seems to be next Wednesday, at least, the majority of people would like to start at 6:30. And so I will relay that information over to Vice President Silverheart, that we will still be starting at 6:30 due to the warrant of Senate. And that ends our reports. Is there anyone else on legislative cabinet that would like to share a report?
Make sure you go to committees because you are required to go like to one committee per week. Also, we got 2 committee times. If the other 2 chairs could let me know what time they're meeting, just talk to me.
One last thing now, because that reminds me. Committee chairs, after you have finished looking over a bill, make sure to send them to me immediately, just because weekly email needs to be done by Monday. So any delays, if it's like a Friday session or Friday or Thursday session, can make it so we won't actually see that bill until the next week.
Alrighty. Would the clerk like to report on anything?
I just want to say thank you for making the motion for the beginning roll call. I am so bad at taking minutes, but it's okay, guys. Yeah, just the weekly email, anything you want to send to the front desk, keep sending it our way. I'm trying to get everything situated. With all of us, it's kind of hard to get everything in there, but we have a pretty good plan in place and we have some new regulations in place for that weekly email to make sure it gets sent out for accessibility.
Great. Now we'll move on to caucus reports. I heard that we actually got a women's caucus chair when I was gone. If there's anything else to be said.
Just that bear with me as I'm figuring things out and getting it started. And yeah, thank you for electing me. I'm excited.
Thank you. The accessibility caucus chair is gone.
No, Sammy sent me an email about that, so I will do my worst at channeling my inner Sammy. Good evening, y'all. First, I'd like to thank y'all for the engagement and interest expressed by folks last week on Accessibility Caucus's goals and mission. Y'all's excitement was truly reinvigorating. Last week, the Accessibility Caucus met last week and elected our vice chair. Congratulations to Senator Alexander Wilson of the SDC. We discussed what the plan is for door buttons and other issues on campus that the caucus will look into pursuant to the extension bill being passed, which will hopefully be on the floor next week. Next Monday, we will be electing a social media officer for our Instagram and going over a game plan on what buildings we'll be going to first. If you have any questions, please reach out to Sammy at ASCSU@gmail.com. He is excited to see y'all there.
Next we move into committee reports, Internal Affairs Committee.
We meet on Tuesdays at 12:30 in the Senate chambers, so please come to that. We also still need to elect positions like the vice chair, so if you have any interest in doing that, you can talk to me and just show up and do that. I would love to have somebody in that position. So yeah, show up to committee Tuesday, 12:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Budgetary Affairs Chair. Committee is officially 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Tuesdays in the Senate conference room. Please show up. Sorry, I'm very tired. We're first looking at the bill 5307 for the lobbyists. Please come in with any questions you have. If you're not able to make that time, please email me. Please still use my directory email. I'm on that email most often, so it's the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of me with any questions you have that you would like me to address during that session. Thank you. Thank you. Next is University Affairs Chair.
Hello. The time I was planning to meet is tomorrow, Thursday, 2 to 3. That is still the plan going forward, but tomorrow it might not happen. I'm not sure yet. I'm having a little event taking place in my life right now tonight. And if it carries into tomorrow, then I'll have to cancel it. which I'm sorry, but I also don't have much to look over right now. I just need a vice chair was really the only plan. And the edits we made to the bylaws, which are very minimal. So yeah, you.
Thank you. You did get a bill today. Next we have the Affairs Committee.
Hey y'all, I'm actually excited about this. I got all my things together. I have actually the email and I set up a time for this committee to meet. It's on Friday from 2 to 3. This first meeting, we'll be looking over the bylaws and trying to elect people as fast as possible. We're trying to do everything. I will bring candy to this meeting. So come if you want candy and also so we can put you into a position.
And with that, we are done with all those. And please, if you cannot make any of those meeting times, please tell me and Claudia and we will figure it out on what y'all can do during those committee times. Or yeah. Anyway, Senator and Associate Senator reports. Senator Davis.
For the committee chairs, if they could like either post it in the Slack or send it out to be put in the like weekly report or come talk to me after so I can write it down of when they meet, some form of writing that down would be super, super helpful.
I currently have a document pulled up with all the day and times, so I'll send that out in the Slack and I'll probably send it to the front desk so they can put it in the weekly email program.
Also, under the Senate branch of the weekly of like the ASCSU website, if you scroll down, you'll see the committee chairs, and normally under it, it'll show you the day and the time of the meeting. So we will send it to the front desk to get the ASCSU website updated. Senator Milquire.
Well, so one of the projects I've been working on in my role as peer advisor for ALDS is trying to get as many health products as possible into our pocket pantry. And along the process of that, I have found out that the Health Network for Health Education and Prevention Services offers free Narcan and fentanyl test strips. Anyone can request those, so I'll be putting a link to that in the Slack if anyone's interested in getting them for themselves or anyone they know. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Is there any other senators or associates that would like to report at this time? Seeing none, we adjourn. I'll see you next Wednesday. We are.